did I realize I was different? I don't know. I would have to say in high school, when I was younger, it was real taboo, and I wasn't really exposed to it, so I didn't really know gay, lesbian, whatever. And when I got to high school, I knew it, but it was kind of taboo. So I knew it was different. You know, I never had a problem with saying, oh, she's pretty or she's whatever. You know, in high school, it's a real taboo. You say, oh, she's pretty. Oh, my God, you're gay. But it never really bothered me. I just thought it was funny. You know, ha ha, he. I definitely remember having a crush on Miss Johnson, my senior chemistry teacher, Dina Johnson. Thank you. You helped me a lot. I needed that to pass. You helped me with my senior project. Good job. It didn't matter what it was. I was going to ask for help. I appreciate it. But I would say I identified as gay at that time. I thought I was going crazy. I thought, I'm losing my mind. Oh my God, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? So I went to college, and you know, you went back, all your friends. My friends were cute. They were prissy. They were. So I did the cute, pretty thing. I had the fingernails, and I had the hair, and I had the stilettos, and I had the skirts, and I pranced around. I dated the cute guys, and then one day I just was like, man, this is whack. Like, this is not me. I'm just not comfortable. And I've always been a tomboy. I've always enjoyed being, not say rough, but I've always enjoyed being athletic and doing stuff. And, you know, I was never really into the skirts and all that stuff. I did it because everybody else did it. I was always a jeans, tennis shoe, Tim's, hoodie, sweatshirt type person.
I realized I was gay when I was a junior in high school. I never noticed anything out of the ordinary until my junior year of high school. And the way I noticed, I found out, I had a boyfriend for 3 years, my first 3 years of high school. We were together, very cute couple, I might say. And he was a year older than me. So when prom time came around, I felt a little pressure, a lot of pressure, because we had been together 3 years, and I had not given it up to him, meaning I had not had sex with my boyfriend of 3 years. So a lot of people would tease him about that, you know, saying that I was holding out and making him wait or whatever, which I was, because, you know, I was not focusing on sex at that time. So when his prom came about, you know, it was a big talk, like, oh, you know, y'all going to prom, you know, it's time, you know, Tay's gonna give it up to him. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, what am I gonna do? I'm like panicking. So I had to come up with a plan, because I was not going to lose my virginity. Yeah, I was a virgin. I was not going to lose my virginity to, you know, my boyfriend just because it was prom. I wasn't ready. So I came up with I decided to pick an argument with my boyfriend, and we broke up. And my mom was upset because she had went out and bought me this beautiful red dress. And when I told her that I wasn't going to the prom, she was mad with me. But, you know, what was I supposed to say? Mom, I'm not going to the prom because he wants to do it to me. Like, no, I'm not going to say that as, you know, a 15-year-old kid. I know, I wasn't going to say that. So, you know, I took it like a champ. And, you know, I told her that we broke up and I didn't go to prom. So after that, of course, he and I never got back together. He took some other girl to the prom, and I'm sure they probably rocked each other's world or whatever. But I didn't go to the prom, and that, you know, I started noticing things within myself, and it was hard. This was the era when Ricky Lake was very popular, talk show host, and she would have segments on about homosexuality, and I would watch that show, and it kind of touched home for me, because it was telling me, giving me insight about feelings that I was having, and I didn't know how to identify with those feelings. I had a best friend who, she and I both were on the basketball team, and we became very close, and we both, found that we both had curiosities in the area of homosexuality. And that's when I realized, that's when I knew that there was definitely something different going on with inside me. And I didn't know how to identify with it. Now, I know I said that I played basketball, and I did, but I don't want anybody to get confused and assume that basketball is what led me to it, because that's not the case. Basketball was an avenue for me. Basketball did not make me gay. I'm a strong believer that there is nothing that can make somebody gay. I think it's something that's inside of us. So basketball did not make me gay. However, basketball did provide me with an avenue to express myself in a different way. And what I mean by that is basketball, when you have female athletes, it's more acceptable for them to have a more dominant demeanor. We were allowed to wear sweatpants and hooping shorts and Jordans and whatever kind of other tennis shoes and things that we wanted to wear, and it was okay. It was okay because we were basketball players or soccer players or whatever the sport was. It was okay because we were an athlete. So it wasn't as obvious, had I not played a sport. My peers wanted to say, "Oh, look at Tay. She's dressed like a boy today." No. Don't get it confused. I wasn't dressed like a boy. I was dressed like an athlete because I was a baller. So once I realized that basketball was the way for me to express myself without being ostracized, I took it and ran with it. I made sure that I played basketball, and I made sure that I was good, because I needed basketball to help me be okay with whom I was at that time. So I just wanted to clarify that. So, but yes, 11th grade is when I realized that I was different. And like I said, it was very hard. In the midst of my best friend and I experimenting, I felt like I was horrible. I mean, I felt like I was just miserable. I cried. I went into myself. I was very depressed. I didn't know who to turn to, how to handle my feelings. I got into writing because that was the only outlet that I had at the time to express how I was feeling. And that helped a little, but not a lot. My whole life changed in that I became very secretive about the things that I was doing, the people that I hung out with, the things that I said. Everything with me became a big secret, and I learned how to hide my sexuality because I had to. My family has a very strong religious background. My great-grandmother reads the Bible day in and day out. My grandmother is very heavily into church and has built our family's foundation upon the Bible and God and all of that. My mother, she was not heavily into religion when I was younger, but as we got older, she took she did a complete 360 and became so religious. It was like, whoa, what happened to her? But she went as far as to go into biblical college, and this is all during a time where I'm realizing that I am this sinner. So it was very hard for me to accept. I was in denial. I just couldn't identify with these feelings I was having. One second I liked it, and then the next second I'm saying, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? I'm not supposed to like this. Like, this is bad. This is really bad. But then the next second, I was just confused. I was completely confused, utterly confused, and did not know what to do with myself, how to handle my emotions. And you got to think, all of this is going on in the prime of my teenage years. I'm dealing with hormones. I'm dealing with so much stuff on top of this realization that Shantae, is gay? What? Are you crazy? Like, that cannot be. So it wasn't easy. It definitely wasn't easy. And the best way that I could cope with it was to hide it. And that's what I did. And I hid it the best way I could. And I became a master at hiding my sexuality from my family and everybody that I felt important. When I say I hid it, I mean exactly that. I had a system down where I didn't want anybody to know that I was a lesbian. It just was not acceptable. I remember I almost got into a fight once because we were at school, and one of my friends, she was a pretty close friend. We had fallen off since my best friend and I had started secretly dating. The other girl, she had noticed some changes, and me and my best friend, we had this thing where a whole bunch of us from the basketball team would give each other hugs when we saw each other in the hallway. Well, this girl, my friend, she saw me and my best friend hug, and so she took that and she went out to everybody else and told them, hey, Tay or her best friend were hugging. She's gay. They're gay. So I caught wind of this rumor that had started going around, and I was upset because I was like, oh my gosh, this girl has stumbled upon my secret, and I have to squash this immediately before this gets out to the wrong people. And so I did what I had to do. Now, I'm not a fighter by any means. Like, fighting is not my forte. And never been in a fight day in my life because I had a big sister that took care of things for me, luckily. But that day I was ready to throw down because I could not have this girl going around school telling people that I was a lesbian. So I approached her and I'm like, excuse me, did you say such and such, out of your mouth? And she's like, well, yeah, no, she didn't know what to say because I had approached her. And I'm like, look, I'm not gay, don't be calling me gay, the whole little neck rolling, whole nine. And it's, luckily for me, it was squashed and that was it. But from that point on, I said, okay, I have to get my game up. If this is what I'm going to do, I have to learn how to do this without getting caught. Because it was a part of me, and there was no fighting it. So I needed to learn how to be gay without getting caught. And I did it. So my plan was, okay, why do people assume that you're gay usually? Well, if you have a boyfriend, then are you gay? Nah, they might say I'm bisexual, but I wasn't going to get that. I didn't even want bisexual. I wanted them to think that I was straight. So I had boyfriends. And when I say boyfriends, I mean multiple boyfriends. I had multiple boyfriends because I needed them, and they were considered my cover-ups. That's what I call them, cover-ups. Cover-ups meant that, yes, I'm secretly dating my best friend on the side, and only she and I know about this, but I have this boyfriend to be my protection in the event that something comes out. Shantae can't be gay and have this boyfriend at the same time. She has a boyfriend. She's not gay. I have a cover-up. I kept the cover-up my whole 11th grade and 12th grade year because I needed them. The problem was that the guys were nice, and I was a nice person too. I didn't want to do that to them, but at the same time, this is my reputation that's on the line. This is my sanity. I have to figure this out. I have to do this. So I did it. I did what I had to do. In addition to having cover-ups, I still had the basketball, which allowed me to express myself as far as appearance goes the way that I wanted. I can dress this way because I play basketball. I have practice tomorrow, so what? I got on sweatpants. I have practice today, so what? I have on sweatpants. Everything that I did, I was able to justify it. That was the plan. If you're gonna do this, be able to justify what it is that you're doing. So my lingo, my dialect started changing too. I learned ways to talk about gay things without being obvious about it. There were code words me and my best friend had. The whole nine. I just had to do what I had to do to cover this stuff up. And that's what I did.